Hello, welcome to ImpactEd. I'm HD Chambers, Superintendent of Schools for Alief ISD. And once again, thank you to those of you who are watching or listening to this week's episode. I am always grateful for people's interest in our school district or in the topics that we try to discuss that are relevant to education and other aspects of our community and just our life. So again, thanks for joining us. This week, I have two guests that if you have followed ImpactEd for the last year or so, a couple of years, you've heard these ladies visit with us before. And today we're going to talk about pre-K and early childhood, I guess, pre-K meaning 4-year-olds specifically. But there's been a lot of banter, a lot of discussion over the last 12 or 13 months since COVID forced us to shut our schools down. The discussion and banter has been about the learning losses and the missed opportunities that many children have experienced during the school year, whether they missed it because they chose to stay home because of concerns, whether they missed it because of choosing to remain online and trying to learn remotely and all the difficulties that go along with that. And also just the fact that we have a lot of families and a lot of young children, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds who have experienced some trauma through the last 12 months that's going to impact any child. So we're going to talk about early childhood education. We're going to talk about what we think has occurred over the last 12 or 13 months, academically, socially, emotionally, to our particularly our 4-year-olds who are getting ready to be 5-year-olds. And to those 3-year-olds who are going to be 4-year-olds who may be eligible for our pre-K program next year. But we're going to talk about strategies that we have and that we're planning over the next several years to put in place to try to begin overcoming these losses. So the two ladies I referenced earlier are Miss Kathy Jahn. Kathy is our Executive Director over Curriculum and Instruction, and one of the areas in which she provides support and resources for is early childhood / pre-K. And then Mari Martinez, who is our kind of coordinates all of our early childhood programs. And if you've ever had a group of 4-year-olds in your house, it's like herding cats. So Mari has the responsibility of herding all those little kittens, as well as all the teachers that have chosen to teach them. So Kathy and Mari, thank you for joining us with ImpactEd. And I'd like to start the conversation with the last 13 or 14 months from your perspective. What might we expect whenever the 21-22 school year rolls around and we have 5-year-olds in kindergarten who did not participate in a pre-K program as a 4-year-old, or maybe they did and they weren't as involved? What is our overall concerns about the losses that are taking place right now with our 3- and 4-year-olds not being in a quality program? And I'll let either one of you guys start, but let's talk about that right at first, and then we'll get into some of the other topics.
Let's talk a little bit about logistics and numbers just to start the conversation. Last March of 2020, we had approximately 2,500 4-year-olds sitting in our pre-K classrooms. And so when we immediately moved to a learn from home environment last spring, we sent 2,500 4-year-olds home to learn. And the idea that the learning was going to be the same as it has been in their classrooms was unrealistic for a variety of reasons. This year, our enrollment started a little bit slow, but at this point, we are at about 1,700 4-year-olds sitting in our classrooms. And by sitting in classrooms, I also mean face-to-face and virtual. But total enrollment is about 1,700. So we're at a deficit of about 800 rather, students who we expected to be in classrooms this year. So the numbers are a concern for us from the starting point.
That basically means we have, theoretically, we have roughly 800 or 900 current 4-year-olds that will show up as a 5-year-old to a kindergarten class somewhere. Could be Alief, could be if they move, it could be anywhere. But they're going to show up to a kindergarten teacher's class without any experience, the benefit of a pre-K experience, right?
Correct. They are students that we anticipated having in our classrooms this year who would be learning with their peers, getting all of the readiness skills for kindergarten. We just don't have those students under our watch or under our instructional plan for this year.
And that's a problem, right, Mari?
It is a problem. But surprisingly, the areas that concern us as a department is not necessarily the academics pieces, whether they know their letters or whether they're coming in knowing their numbers. For us, it's more those areas that are not as evident, that social-emotional piece, the oral language development piece, because these children, we don't know where they've been. We don't know who's taking care of them. Are they developing language as we would have wanted to work on, and as we've been working with the pre-K students that are in our classrooms right now. With everything going on with COVID and the pandemic, one of the things that has been affected is there's not a lot of socialization, but there's a lot of stress going on, even for our little children, even for 4-year-olds. They notice, they know that things are going on that are not okay. And in the past, one of the things that, not in the past, the way that they deal with stress is through play, through talking, through interacting with other children, and through interacting with adults. And when we cut that out, it's you don't give them a place for them to express their emotions, to talk through them, to work through what's happening. And so that is something that we've been very focused on this year with our pre-K teachers, in trying to make sure, okay, even with keeping centers, learning centers, which is where they go in and they play and they learn about what's going on in their classrooms right now. Even if we can't sit next to each other, what are some ways that we can incorporate some playful experiences and some opportunities for them to talk within the classroom or within a virtual environment? We've been working really hard on that. So when we have children that are coming from home and they may not have had those experiences, that worries us going into kindergarten.
So, adults call it like decompress. I hear this all the time. I need to go decompress, and we all have our own strategies for decompressing. The 4-year-old decompressing, like you said, is playing. It's playing.
Yeah. That's how they do it.
Yeah.
In a normal situation, that is a learning curve for all 4-year-olds coming into pre-K. The way that they interact with family or close friends and relatives is very different than they react to school environments or adults that they have not been familiar with before. So on top of that, the stress of the past year could put our children in a different view,
right?
Socially, emotionally speaking, based on those stresses that they haven't had an outlet for in the past year. You don't see many children out playing during this time because of safety concerns. And so there's an additional kind of desert for that opportunity, as you say, to decompress.
Does you only get to be 4 one time, right?
That's correct.
Right, and you only talk one of you guys talk just a little bit about the brain development at that time and why we have been pushing so long and so hard for full day pre-K or full day quality pre-K. This missed opportunity, and maybe I don't want to mischaracterize this. I think there's opportunities for us to go back and take care of and address some of this unfinished learning. But it is true. A hard fact is these 4-year-olds will never be 4 again. In the time, the last 12 or 13 months of their cognitive development, we don't get to go back and do that again. I know that concerns all of us for the very reasons you said on the social emotional side as well as the academic side. Could you talk just a little bit about, what's the as a parent, if you're a parent and you've got a 4-year-old and you just heard, oh my God, my child missed out on something as a 4-year-old. What are they missing out on? Is there a way to quantify or qualitatively explain that?
Well, I think, we've always talked about the research says that over 90% of the brain is developed by age 5.
Right.
So as a parent, I would be very concerned if I wasn't able to have my child be in a pre-K classroom this year for, all the
Right.
reasons that we know. But for example, one of the things that we've been trying to do and working on is to let also parents know these are some things you could still do at home. Provide as much as you can those playful experiences. Maybe connect through Zoom or through FaceTime with other children so that the kids can play together. There are all these programs that are, because of everything that's been happening this year, that they're providing these opportunities so that kids, even if it is virtually, sit them down, let them talk to other children, or you yourself as an adult, sit down, go down to their level, play with them, have conversations with them. Let's do some sing-alongs. Let's walk around outside. Let's take notice of things that you're seeing and things like that, so that you're developing that language as well. It's not too late. As a parent, you can still help them out. It's not like a gloom and doom where they didn't go to pre-K, that is it. No, there are things you can do. One of the things, and we'll talk about this later, one of the things that's happening in the next few weeks is we have pre-K and kindergarten roundup. And one of the things we'll be doing is talking to the families during that event about, here are some things you can still do at home to help your child be ready for when they come into kindergarten or to pre-K, as the case may be.
Let's talk about that. This notion that what has occurred over the last year or so is going to impact those children who have not had an experience. It is, and I'm glad you're right. It's not doom and gloom. It's not, oh my God, my child missed pre-K, so therefore he or she's never going to make it. That's not obviously the case. And I don't want us to come across, or I don't want to come across with that way. However, I think it's fair to say, and it's almost common sense to say, that there is some catching up that needs to take place. There's definitely. And, when we look at our data for our students that are currently with us, the areas that always we highlight, or that flag is, like I said, that oral language, that vocabulary development. Those are areas that, because this is the time to develop that language. This is the time when this is happening. And we are providing in the classrooms opportunities for this. And so if that's not happening, then yes, you're going to see gaps, and you're going to see some areas where they're going to be falling behind. So Kathy, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, you focus on, okay, what are my next steps? Not necessarily what has happened and what didn't happen, but focus on what can I do now? Mm-hmm. So as a parent, what can you do now is get your child enrolled so that we can have them in a classroom in Alief ISD for the next school year. And we have several resources and opportunities, both through the early childhood webpage and through our family centers, where parents can engage in some activity now to really jumpstart. And then for teachers, if we didn't have students engaged, then how can the instructional department and the early childhood coaches help you as the teacher to welcome those kids into your classrooms and give them some necessary additional support to make sure that we can catch them up as quickly as possible.
So the timing, the timing of the roundup, Mari, that you mentioned earlier, and trying to engage parents. I know that we have a lot of families that are still highly concerned with the virus, and they're highly concerned with exposing themselves or their child being exposed and coming back home because of all the reasons we know that that families are worried. Can y'all talk about just what we're doing to try to incentivize, but encourage parents to look at the roundup? And we literally are trying to round up families of these children and educate them on the things that we've been talking about. So maybe talk a little bit more in detail about what our plans are, the dates, how a parent can engage themselves in this, and how they can get their child signed up. Just talk a little bit about that, please.
Yes, our pre-K and kinder roundup will be held virtually on Thursday, April 8th at 5:00. And if you, as a parent, if you visit your home campus website page, you will get more information as to how to sign up for the event and how you will receive a Zoom link to connect during that evening. But you should also don't wait until the roundup. Go ahead and get your child enrolled. And you can do that by going to www.aliefisd.net/EC. And that webpage will have questions, an FAQ section. It also has steps as to what you need to do. It takes you through what documents you may have to bring or you may need to submit for enrollment. So we're definitely encouraging everybody to enroll now and to visit the pre-K and the kinder roundup. One of the things that we're telling our working with our campuses on for that evening is making sure that they're providing some examples of how right now we are maintaining safety guidelines in the pre-K and the kinder classrooms. We want to make sure that, show videos, show pictures of the learning that's happening in those classrooms while still maintaining safety and the protocols. And we're very proud of that. We're very proud of the work that the teachers are doing in each of our pre-K and kinder classrooms to keep children learning, but also safe. And so we wanted to make sure that we highlighted that during that event so the parents can see firsthand, this is what it's going to look like.
The other thing that's important is that as parents go on the website to begin the registration process, the campus registrars will reach out to families individually so that they can ensure that all the proper documentation, all of the papers that are necessary, all of the data that they'll need on a family in order to register a child can be inputted into our registration system early on. That's going to help us with planning, one for planning for safety, but also planning for staffing, making sure that we're ready to take the additional 800 kids back once the school year starts, because we've had to make some staffing decisions and move folks around to ensure that all of our classrooms are covered. And one of the hardest hit areas was our early childhood classrooms. So pre-K and kindergarten had some staffing implications with the decrease in enrollment. And we want to make sure that we're prepared because they're some of the neediest children when you talk about welcoming kids back to a school year. You have to teach kids at that age how to do school. So you have to teach them, how to go to a cafeteria or how to go to dismissal areas. And we want to ensure that we have appropriate staff. So the earlier that our families register, the earlier we can plan, not only for safety guidelines with COVID, but also just to ensure that we have effective supervision in place for all of the little ones as they come back.
And also, I just wanted, if I could piggyback on that, Kathy, if you need any help, if you have any issues as you're trying to enroll or as you're entering and starting the process, reach out to us, reach out to your campus registrar, reach out to my department, reach out to student services, reach out and we will help you through this to make sure that you can enroll your child and help you with any part of the process that's difficult.
If it sounds like we're recruiting or rounding up, it's because we are. This is I don't think any of us, particularly those of you that do what you guys do for a living, and specifically looking at children, how they learn, what strategies works best for certain groups of kids. I can't overemphasize how important the pre-K, kinder, first grade years are for the reasons Mari stated earlier. Yes, we are recruiting. We're doing everything we can do to try to help parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and those who are in the decision-making roles of children, trying to look out for the best interest of their own child. We're trying to help ease the safety side of that, as Mari said. But there's a sense of urgency that at least I feel a sense of urgency that is beginning to manifest itself over the last 12 or 13 months, that if we don't do what we're doing, and if other districts, and I'm sure they are, but if we're not all actively, aggressively in some cases, recruiting and educating and rounding them up, if you will, then we run the risk next fall of having maybe not as severe a shortage of students in pre-K, but we do run that risk because there won't be a pediatric vaccine at that time. There's still going to be families that are going to be concerned. So one cohort, 1 year's worth of pre-K is enough. We need everyone that's eligible to be in a pre-K program or that's 4-year-old to be in some type of program. So yeah, if you sense a sense of urgency, it's because it's there. It is there. And
in addition to that, Mr. Chambers, it really does have a long-term implication. Through lots of work that's happened in Alief over the past few years, we've sort of adopted this mentality of we're responsible almost from cradle to career. And so when students don't start in our schools at 4 years old and don't have all of the opportunities to develop that oral language proficiency, that vocabulary, their literacy development can be delayed. And one of our goals is certainly to have students reading on level by 3rd grade. Well, if they've missed a few of the initial touch points for development, that would put them a little bit behind. And we know in order for them to be successful later on in their middle school and high school coursework, eventually in the career world, they have to have those literacy skills solidly planted in their brains so that they can use them in meaningful ways. And so there really are long-term implications of us not rounding up as many of the 4-year-olds as we can, because the implications are very deep as you move through a child's career in school to their life in career. Mm-hmm. So that's really important to us. It's a board priority that we have kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade, and having them in our classrooms is the most critical piece to getting that ball rolling.
Well, we will continue discussing that part of this issue, which is just getting the parents and the students, making them aware, helping them, as Mari mentioned. I don't want, and I know invariably this will happen, but I don't want a parent to say, I didn't know where my child was supposed to go to school, or I didn't know how to access it, or I didn't know how to do that. To the extent we can eliminate that, that's what we're attempting to do. We don't want that to be an excuse. I would much rather a parent say, I made the choice to keep my child at home, or I made the choice not to do this, as opposed to I couldn't figure it out, or no one was willing to help. We all acknowledge that's unacceptable to us. So going forward, again, if you've paid attention to Alief ISD in the last 6, 7, 8 years, you've heard us talk a lot about early childhood. We had a bond referendum that dedicated $85 million to pre-K facilities. So this community has spoken up. Our school board has spoken up. Our administration, our teachers, our families have spoken up. And we've all agreed that this is a critical component of our mission in our district, which is to educate our earliest and most vulnerable learners. So with that, maybe is a way to incentivize if you're a parent listening to this or a guardian. Maybe, ladies, let's talk about what we're doing with our new facilities and then what we're doing with our existing facilities. That it's going to be hard to paint this picture by describing it. So what we're getting ready to do is not going to do justice to what's being described. But let's talk about a little bit about the experience that we're trying to adjust for our earliest and youngest learners. And I'll let either one of you guys talk about that.
So let me segue a little bit, and then I'll let Mari get deep into the curriculum aspects and development that is happening for those exciting times. We have 14 of our campuses that are currently offering full-day pre-K. We have a few campuses that aren't able to yet because of capacity, and so because of that, we are excited to announce that we have 2 early childhood centers on the way. Both of those centers come out of the 2015 bond referendum. So the community voted that was a priority for our community. And those early childhood centers will open in the 22-23 school year. And they are going to be exciting places for kids to learn. We also have to provide a very equitable early childhood experience across campuses that will not have students in the center. We will be bringing the experiential learning to the campuses, and we'll have the same kinds of classroom experiences available at any campus in Alief ISD. So you won't be any worse off if you are on a campus than if you're in the new early childhood centers. There's a lot of curriculum work going on behind these thematic, experience-driven classrooms, and I'm going to turn it over to Mari and let her give you a deeper dive into that work.
Well, yes, I'm very, very excited about what's coming. And so these experiences, what it means is that instead of your typical classroom, your typical pre-K classroom, you will have it's an experience room, for lack of a better word, and we have 12 different experiences that we've created. There's and I'm just going to name a few. I'm not going to name all of them, but you'll have a farm to table experience, and you'll have a space city experience, a hidden forces, our community going places experiences. And what happens is that we've done the research. We know that our youngest learners, they learn through hands-on, they learn through interactive, playful experiences. And so what we wanted to do was bring a little bit of the world to our students. We wanted to bring some of that to them. A lot of them are not able to travel as much or to visit all these places. And so what we're trying to do is create these classrooms so that they can experience it firsthand. If I could maybe do an example of what the difference would be. In your typical pre-K classroom, if you wanted to learn about the different animal habitats, you would read books, maybe as a teacher, you bring a video that you show them, and you have the toy animals so the children can play with it. Well, in our experiential classrooms, within the classroom, you could step into the area where is the Arctic. And all around you, it looks like you're in the snow. And there's a sled with a life-size husky where they can play. Or you can go into another area and there's a life-size bear that instead of playing with the little bear in the classroom, you're in there, you're learning it firsthand. There are beautiful, beautiful graphics on the walls all around them, on the ceilings, on the floor, so that the children really, it's like they're immersed in that place, in that experience itself. We're creating activity guides to go with each of the rooms, which means while the students are there, they're learning. Everything that they're learning has to do with learning about that environment, the vocabulary that they're going to be learning, the books that they're going to be reading, the activities, the centers that we're going to be creating. Everything will have to do with that experience. And that's being carefully crafted and created throughout this entire year. And in addition to that, and we're not going to leave that out, in addition to that, we're also, this is our adoption year for a new curriculum. So we can't say yet which one it is, but I do want you to know that the one that we've chosen is one that will be aligned perfectly with these experiences so that the children can get the most out of their year in pre-K.
And then if you talk about the actual construction of these centers where these great experiential classrooms are going to be, the actual structures, the two early childhood centers are developed with 4-year-olds in mind. The hallways will be wide, clear sight lines for safety. They'll have sensory walls, meaning when children walk down the walls, they like to drag their hands and they like to touch things. And so everything has been and will be constructed for children's developmental needs. So kids can touch the walls and they'll have ridges and bumps and things that are sensory, that are part of our pre-K guidelines that they learn at that age. And the building will be designed for that. Very interactive play and movement areas. It's important that our kids are healthy learners. And so that active play outside will occur in both of the centers. And the safety of our children, that outdoor play space is included within the walls of the building. So there will be no room for students to accidentally wander off the playground or see something they might want, because the building is actually built around those learning spaces. There will be music and art. There will be, action-based learning as a part of their daily routines. The building also includes what we call collaboration space. And so a collaboration space will be in the center of 4 classrooms. And students will come together in that collaboration space for a variety of reasons. One of them is for eating. When it is safe to put all of our kids back at a table again and have them eat together, it will hit the family sort of environment of sharing meals, and that you sit down together at a table and you have conversations while you're eating and sharing the actual food that's on your table. There will be a very different approach to just eating in schools and the kinds of things that can happen within that setting. There are actually pre-K standards that we can hit through having kids in that collaboration space together, because again, it's about the oral language development, it's about the interaction.
Yeah, social-emotional piece.
Social-emotional. And so the building is not just a building. It's not just a brick and mortar where we're going to send a bunch of 4-year-olds. The building has been designed with the developmental needs of students in mind first, and families. There will be a family engagement area where parents can come into the building. They will be able to do learning as well that will help them to impact their child's educational career, all the while keeping kids safe and making sure that academically they have everything they need in that place.
I'm glad you said that, Kathy, because it's true. Every single aspect of those buildings has been very carefully selected, thought out, and every single conversation we've had, like you mentioned, we've had the pre-K guidelines and standards right next to us. Everything is very, very purposeful. And so one thing that came out of those conversations very early on and in our district was, so what happens to the students that are not going to be able to go to the centers? So that's where these, and I'm still mobile units or convertible classrooms, we're creating these experiences for those campuses that will remain, that will continue to have pre-K in their campus. So that is a more equitable across the district. And so these same 12 experiences will be created so that each campus can have, for example, a room where they'll convert that room into that farm to table room. And then students will be able to learn in it and experience time in it, and then we'll switch it out and make it the hidden forces room or the going places room. And so even that aspect of it has been thought out, that this is not just for the students that are going to the 2 centers. This is we're working across the district to make sure that all of our students are getting these experiences.
If you've ever, and I know not everyone has, but if you've ever taken your child to a museum, like a children's museum, could be natural science, whatever it is, that has so far been my best analogy to explain what the pre-K centers that we're building right now, as well as the experience on our campuses, are going to be like. You can't go to a museum these days and just, well, I guess you can if you find an old boring one where you just walk around and look at stuff in the museum. But you go to museums now and they're interactive. You're engaged, and if you get bored walking around looking at old stuff, this way keeps you engaged, because not only are you looking at things and learning about things, but you're actually playing. You're playing and providing information for you to help grow your knowledge, and you don't even realize it. That's the magic of education. And sometimes is you're putting kids in environments and they're learning and they don't even realize they're learning. So I'll stop for 1 second and tell you how proud and I am of Mari and Kathy and other members of the early childhood team, because they have continually pushed for not only for programming and for funds for these 4-year-olds, but for the right type of facility and the right type of environment for a teacher to be able to actually perform their craft of educating these early childhood learners. And it's I want parents to know this, and I don't know how many parents are going to watch or listen to this, and I don't know how many it's going to get to. But the thing that I want you to know is that all of us, Mari, Kathy, myself, our school board, we want the best environment. We want I don't mean almost the best. I don't mean we're trying to get close. I mean, we want the best environment that any child could, or any family or parent would expect for their own children. That's what I'm attempting to do, or we're attempting to do. And so, going back to the first topic we talked about the loss of the learning losses, and then this assumption and knowledge and the sense of urgency on the catching up, for those that didn't have it, and then these facilities and our approach to it. I just want families to know that this is an opportunity that you'll never get again. You'll never have again for your children, and we want them engaged and we want them involved. My goal is to have so many students in early childhood that we have to build additional buildings. That's what I want. I want the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. I want every family to put their child in these environments and force the school board and myself to either ask taxpayers for more money or to find more money to build more classroom space for these kids. That's how important this is. So,
Mr. Chambers, many times parents ask, is it important that they're in pre-K? Can't they just start school in kindergarten? These early childhood centers will be just for our 4-year-old pre-K students, and the kinds of experiences that they'll have, the hands-on opportunities, the learning that will happen within these centers is critical to them moving into kindergarten, more than ready, probably more ready than they've ever been before because of these experiences. And so this is, if you're asking yourself, do they have to be in pre-K? Can I not just send them to kindergarten? I don't think they'll want to miss these experiences or the opportunity for that brain development that could occur in a center, in a building like this. So this is the reason to put your child in a pre-K before they come to kindergarten, because of the opportunities that they will have in these kinds of classrooms, whether it's on our campuses where we're bringing in these mobile units, or whether it's in the center where the classrooms will be more stationary. It's important to have a student give them that opportunity to experience the learning in a very different way than any other district in our area is doing. The opportunities are endless for these centers, but many times we get questions about, why do they need to be in pre-K? Can't they just start in kinder? This is one of the reasons why they should be there.
And also, I wanted to mention that the experiences, when our team sat down to try to decide, okay, which themes we would put in these experience rooms, our list was, as you can imagine, it was very long. So the way that we narrowed it down a little bit was we looked at not just the pre-K guidelines, but we looked into kinder and first grade and second grade. What are some of those topics or standards that students or if things that our students need to know about, what background information they need to know about so that they're successful? And that's how we narrowed it down. It was even the themes have been carefully chosen so that they are reaching to the potential that they need to be, so that students are successful, not just in pre-K, but in kinder and first and second grade, because this is long-term, like Kathy mentioned. This is not just for 1 year. This is what they're learning that will help them in the years to come. And then Kathy mentioned that the centers will open in the year 22-23, but I just wanted to let parents know that these mobile experiences, these experiences will be in the full day classrooms next year. So those full day campuses will have this starting in the fall of next year. So definitely, if your child is pre-K, is going to be pre-K age next year, I would not wait. I would enroll them today. As soon as you hear this message, go ahead and enroll.
And I was going to say that's the Mari. Those are the mobile units you're talking about are in the 14 full day programs that we have right now.
Correct.
For the 4-year-old for incoming 4-year-olds, I guess.
Correct. So they will be, and they'll be ready to go starting in the fall of the 21-22 year.
Those thematic classrooms were also chosen very regionally minded. There's an Our Community experience room that is about our community. I don't want to give away too much. There will be a sneak peek architecture video about to hit our website soon, where people will get to see a view. But there was a lot of purpose and intention in the selection for the thematic rooms, because we wanted students to be proud of the community that Alief is, and the cultural and diversity of the area. The Space City, obviously, Houston is about Space City. Mari mentioned that as one of the areas. We also have an international district room, a Gulf Coast room. So we didn't just choose from a, like fairy tale list of rooms and do it. We were very intentional and very specific about what we exposed our kids to that we found value in. And we find value in the Alief community, which is why these centers are being built. And that value will be experienced in one of those classrooms.
Yeah, there should be a lot of excitement. I mean, I've never met a parent, no matter what the situation is. I've never met a parent who doesn't want the best for their child. Right? We have many parents that sometimes are not sure how to provide the best for their child, and I mean, you have recent immigrants to our country. You've got language barriers. You've got financial barriers. There's all kinds of reasons why sometimes there seems to be, there's a lot of people that say, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't aware, or I wasn't sure how to do that. And if hopefully those of you that are watching or listening to this, the message is, let us help you. Let us help you help your child. And because it will happen, it will happen. And Kathy alluded to this very briefly earlier about the impact of not having a quality pre-K experience, or a quality kindergarten experience as a 5-year-old, or a quality first grade experience as a 6 or 7-year-old. The impact of that, we can't overemphasize that it is a ripple effect, unless we have a chance to come in and help overcome that loss. And so, yes, while we're talking about a facility and the design of it and the opportunities for our kids, at the core of it is going to be our teachers. It is going to always be our teachers. It's going to be them teachers learning how to teach in a different way. Mari said, if you look at a pre-K program now, it's in a classroom, and it's a bit of a little playground / school, because you got a bunch of little 4-year-olds. Teachers are going to have to learn to teach in a different environment when we start putting them in a NASA environment or in a international district type environment. And kids are learning through experiences and hands-on. So I'm just trying to echo what Kathy and Mari have said about the experience and how critical that is right now. If not, it could manifest itself into a problem for not only for children, but for our society in the future. Kathy, you talked earlier, or you and I talked offline about this, and I think it needs to be discussed, is our extremely successful efforts to begin working with our private daycare partners out in the community. And we, and I'm not exaggerating here, we were probably best in the state of Texas at that, with our approach, with our success rate, and then COVID hit. Maybe share a little bit about what that public-private partnership, when I say public-private, public being the school system, private being privately owned daycare facilities, whether it's in a strip center or a standalone. But many of our children who are going to come to us as 4 and 5-year-olds are in these programs as infants and 1 and 2 and 3-year-olds. Kathy, talk about how COVID's impacted that and how we're going to continue trying to rebuild that.
So we have a collection of daycares that have been working with Alief ISD for several years in partnership. And we have staff members who work with the teaching staff in those daycares to align the opportunities for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old in a daycare setting, so that when they come to Alief schools, that they have had some quality teaching experiences. We give the professional learning to the teachers that are in those daycare settings. And obviously, when Last spring, people's work situations changed dramatically. They were in a service business. Services, shut down for a while. Parents may have been out of work or between job situations. And so they weren't sending their children to daycare. They were sending their children, or they were keeping their children at home. The daycares, of course, were greatly impacted by that. The community spirit of daycares being a vibrant part of our community, those daycare providers and daycare directors had to make some difficult decisions about, were they going to close down? Were they going to have to reduce staff? We have continued that partnership this school year, but it is been a struggle for our daycares to stay, above water as far as the number of students that are coming into their centers to be cared for every day, and the number of teachers that they are able to hold on to for the variety of things that are happening in people's family lives right now. So we are going to continue to keep that partnership going. We have the staff in place to support the teachers and the professional learning that occurs. We've still met with all of our daycares remotely this year and have done remote coaching. But parents, as you're considering daycare options, as more workplaces are opening and job opportunities are starting to pick up, as you're choosing a daycare, please look for the Alief banner, because all of our partner daycares have received a banner so that they can advertise this partnership. And if you are thinking, wow, these opportunities that you're talking about, early childhood centers, mobile units and classrooms, I want my child to be involved in that. Even if your child's not 4 yet, you could be choosing a daycare that's partnered with us. So there's a stream of consistent practice and opportunity for your child as they embark in their daycare to school to career pathway. We're very aligned with our district partners. If you're a daycare provider and you're one of our partners and you're listening right now, we are happy to partner with you even through these COVID times. And if you're a daycare that maybe isn't partnered with us yet, but is interested in those opportunities, we are always looking for opportunities to partner with you and show our community that this is not just a isolated, when you get to Alief, you're an Alief, when you leave us, you're gone. This really is a community effort to do what's best for our families and our students so that they are successful and continue to be productive citizens in the Alief community once they leave us.
Very good. This is not a conversation that only rests at our feet. It rests with a lot of people's feet. So, I mean, we've got, as you mentioned, we've got daycare facilities. We have churches with programs. Obviously, our program. So our children are our children. They're not mine. They're not yours. They're ours. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we can rebuild I'm optimistic we can rebuild relationships with pre-K, daycare centers, et cetera. What dampens my optimism a little bit is making sure that we begin getting families to trust and allow the safety and security issue to be addressed, and then get their children back into that structured setting. That's my greatest fear going into the 21-22 school year is just that. Ladies, this has been helpful. I want to before we wrap this up, I would like Mari to just remind everyone about the roundup. While there's a formal roundup, there's also informal. We're taking registrations every day. Could you maybe just remind everyone one more time about the roundup and what it means and what we're trying to do? But there's more than one opportunity to get signed up. Get your child signed up.
Definitely. I would say enroll now. Don't wait. Enroll. And let me just say the website again is www.aliefisd.net/EC. So visit that website to enroll.
The letters EC, right? Early childhood, EC.
EC for early childhood, yes.
Okay, make sure it's not easy.
So enroll your children today, and then also participate in our pre-K and kinder virtual roundup next Thursday, April 8th at 5:00. And each campus will have information in their own website about what that evening event will look like. And there will be a lot of information, again, like I mentioned before, about, what are some of the things that are going on right now in our pre-K and kinder classrooms to make sure that learning is going on in a safe way. So definitely participate. If you don't know which one is your home campus, give us a call. We'll help you with that piece. Or if you have any problems or any questions about the enrollment process, please call your campus, call us, by us, I mean early childhood department, student services, call any of us, and we'll make sure that you get the information that you need.
Great. Kathy, any last words from your perspective?
So with all of these exciting things happening, we couldn't fit everything into this one little time block. Please refer to our social media sites for updates of things that are coming, exciting things that are coming in the early childhood world, as well as just general Alief ISD announcements. We will have, as I said, that sneak peek video to what one of the centers will look like moving forward in the planning. Also referencing our early childhood website has a variety of resources for you. If you have questions, if you reach out to either Mari or myself through the Alief page, we will be glad to help with that. But there's some exciting things coming down the road. We have some planning going on also for potential summer opportunities for parents to get kids back and engaged in learning. We're not quite ready to disclose full details on that, but please continue to follow Alief ISD, whether it's the Facebook page, the Twitter page, or the website, to look for opportunities. We're ready for your children to come back. We're excited about what will happen when they get here and the learning that you'll see. But please stay posted with updates, because we have exciting things happening.
Well, again, thank you for not only for today, but for what you guys have done. I know Mari has a huge team of early childhood staff. I say that with a wink and a nod. It's so funny; it's making her crack up. But we're attempting to do everything we can do to provide opportunities for families, and there is a sense of urgency. I know I keep saying that, but there is a sense of urgency that we feel. So, one more time, the website, www.aliefisd.net/EC, the letters EC, or check your child's school or your school's website if you have children, if you know the school that's in your attendance zone. But we're gonna be opening up these facilities. The 14 full day in a school are going to open up this fall. So 6 months from now. Our full-blown facilities, our pre-K centers, which are going to house roughly 550 or so kids each, those will open up in the 22-23 school year, so one more year from now. But we want as many families signing up and ready to go as possible. So with that, ladies, thank you again. Appreciate everything you do. This has been ImpactEd. I'm HD Chambers. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you soon. Take care of yourselves.
This has been an AMP production.